It's as much about process and good decision making. I would like to think that we have a framework to make good decisions, and that framework is that we look at all of the legal implications and all of the imposts that the planning system puts upon us, and then we filter that through a very simple filter. Does this benefit our community, or does it place an additional burden on our community? The council and the councillors came down the side that this is going to place an enormous burden on our community, that those who are building it aren't really concerned about. So we rejected this planning proposal. Now that was the former council. While I have the opportunity, I'd just like to acknowledge that the Honourable Gareth Ward is here. I've got to get my protocols right. We have also the new council, who stand shoulder to shoulder with the community on this. Represented here today is our youngest member and our new Deputy Mayor, Imogen. We have Stuart Larkins, we have Mark Croxford, we have Kathy Lang, Karen Lang and Kathy Rice, and there's probably more councillors here, but you're all masked up for some reason. I get that. But it's not often that you find a community, a council, a state representative all come together to have a look at this process and say, something's wrong, something's wrong. Now, the former minister undertook, with Gareth's support and community support, and I acknowledge Mark and other Mark, there you are, for organising that. And that minister undertook to do a review of the report that eventually made his decision. I'd also like to think that the new minister, the Honourable Anthony Roberts, will honour that. I don't see why they wouldn't. And I believe that that report is coming out very, very soon. Now, I would be surprised, for the reasons that Mark mentioned before, Mark Greaves, that it doesn't fit the site-specific merit test. It doesn't fit the strategic merit test. The documents that they use to say that are outdated and were never really endorsed by the government. It's going to put a burden on our schools, our sewerage, which we don't want. It's going to put a burden on the community in terms of 400 lots could easily turn into 600 houses with probably 3 or 4 cars each, and it's just absolutely inappropriate. So I have asked formally on behalf of the council for the minister to come down, stand with us and have a look at that site and have a look at the implications of this decision, and he will understand why people in this community are not happy. That's all I've got to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Neal. In the Illawarra Shoalhaven Regional Plan, and if you have a chance, have a look at that. It's on the website, and that clearly defines what the housing requirements in the whole Illawarra Shoalhaven will be for the next 20 years. The most recently one completed was last year, 2021, through to 2041. And that gives an indication of the amount of dwellings that Kiama will need to help to contribute to the regional housing strategy. We all understand that we've got to shoulder some of that burden as well. We understand that. But this needs to be sensible and sustainable development, not development that is going to be a poorly thought out planning process that will not suit the future requirements of this LGA. We were able to, through the good work of Mark Croxford, Gareth and myself and Mark were able to organise a Zoom meeting with the Minister, Rob Stokes, at the time. And I've got to tell you that we were pretty confident with the approach that Rob Stokes had on that. we were quite confident with him being the Minister that he would be sympathetic to our viewpoint. Twice during that Zoom meeting, he said very clearly that he did not want Kiama to be a continuation of solid housing developments, one after the other. That part of the appeal to this area is the lovely rolling green hills. So, with that, I might hand over to your local state member, the Honourable Gareth Ward. Because Gareth has been a great supporter in helping us oppose this development. He's gone above and beyond what is needed to be. So, over to you, Gareth. Thank you.
Testing. There we go. Thank you very much, Mark. Can I also join with Mark and Neil in acknowledging the incredible traditional owners of our land? Can I acknowledge elders both past, present and emerging? And can I also acknowledge that under the concrete this is, was and always will be Aboriginal land? Can I acknowledge, of course, your newly elected Mayor, Neil Reilly. Congratulations, Neil. It is a tremendous honour to represent one's community, and I want to congratulate you on your election, and I'm sure you're a really important leadership of our very special community over the next few years. Can I acknowledge your Deputy Mayor, Imogen Drasma, and can I acknowledge Councillor Stewart, can I acknowledge Councillor Karen, can I acknowledge Councillor Kathy, and of course my good friend Councillor Mark Croxford, who as mentioned earlier has been a great help on this proposal as well. But most importantly, I want to acknowledge the Kiama community for standing up. There's not many things that upset us, but when we get together and get angry, we get things done. And can I tell you, friends, I am angry because I've always put my faith in governments that say, well, we want to allow local communities to decide the future of their urban environment. But that is not what is happening now. I do not want Sydney developers to tell us how our community will develop and the circumstances in which it will develop. And we need to send a message. We need to send a message to the decision makers, every single one of them that's not on. Now, at this circumstance, at this point in time, we have had a decision by a minister to review the decisions that have taken place at this point. And I can tell you as your local member, I worked really hard on the Illawarra Regional plan, which is a plan that talks about preserving village character. It talks about preserving the unique characteristics. It talks about the future. And I think it's important to talk about where development should go. I don't think anyone in this crowd is anti-development. We are for sensible and sustainable development. Things like the Bombo Quarry, that's the future. That's the future of where we can have the development that younger families need. That is potentially a new suburb with the infrastructure, next to a railway station, next to the M1. That's the sort of vision we need. But what we have at South Kiama is ad hoc planning. Planning that will put pressure on very limited roads. We've already got overflow from the sewerage system. We don't have the community infrastructure. We don't have the community infrastructure, and after the land is gone and the profits have been pocketed, it will be this community that will have to deal with the consequences. And to that, friends, I say no. Absolutely no. So I want to thank this community for standing up. I want to thank Mark Greaves in particular, who has given his time, and to everyone involved with Mark, thank you, Mark, for giving up your time. Right now, we have the independent reviewer doing his work. And I want to thank Rob Stokes, the former planning minister. He was somebody who understood that we needed to get this right. He was prepared to accept that maybe his department had got it wrong. Now, I hate to report this to you, but I did invite the planning minister, Anthony Roberts, to be here today. Apparently, he was too busy. You want to give that another go? I hope you heard that all the way up in Lane Cove, and because he's the member for there, and I'm going to put up on my Facebook later today his contact details. And I want everybody to write to both his electorate office and his ministerial office and tell him what you think of this development. We've got an independent reviewer right now that's going to make a recommendation to him as minister. It's on him. It's on him. He's the Minister for Planning. He's responsible. But all of us have that opportunity to have one more go at saying that we want to make the decisions about how our community looks. We love where we live. That's the reason why we live here. Having grown up and lived here all my life, I have seen some great decisions, but I've seen some ones that really, really annoy me. And this is in that category. And I'm not going to sit back and let our community be walked all over. I'm not going to sit back and allow governments to make decisions that we have to live with. So I want to say to each and every one of you, thank you for being here today on this glorious Kiama Day. We had some kids playing cricket over here in the park earlier. I think if the UK cricket team are looking for some batsmen, they should have grabbed some of them. But that aside, I want to say thank you to all of you for caring. Thank you for caring about how our community looks now and in the future. Thanks for actually giving a damn about the importance of this community. Thank you for loving Kiama. I'm against this development. We'll fight all the way. Let's go. Let's say no.
Well, how about that? Thank you so much, Being at a Zoom meeting with Gareth and Mark Croxford, and we were talking to Minister Rob Stokes, and I thought, I have never seen anybody go off with a minister like Gareth did from his office. I thought, wow. He thought he was prepared to put mateship or collegiate activities above. He was prepared to say, no, this is not the right thing for this community. And forever thankful, Gareth. So, where to next? This is probably the last chance that we're going to get, because the democratic process doesn't work as it should. The decisions for rezoning will occur in Sydney for this land. So we need to tell the Minister in particular, my understanding he has not delegated his ministerial responsibility to the department, that he has the right over any decision that is made on this rezoning issue. So we need to tell Minister Anthony Roberts that we're not happy about it. We need to tell him in a manner that makes sense, that it's not about any development. We understand that that's going to happen, but it needs to be sensible and sustainable development, as Gareth said. And thank you, Mel, and also that meets the needs of our community and provides the future amenity of current members of our community and any future members. It would be no surprise to anybody that on a day like this, everybody would love to live down here. It's a fantastic place to live. Can I just cover also the affordable housing issue? Affordable housing gets a lot of airplay, a lot of words added to it. You would have noticed in the Bugle article last week that the Valuer General just released figures that indicated that the Kiama LGA increased its unimproved capital value by the largest amount of any state LGA. How can we provide affordable housing in an area where real estate is already unaffordable? So this is not about affordable housing. Please don't believe what the proponents may say about that development down there at South Kiama. The only way that development could be affordable for most people is if they decrease the market value of those properties. And I can't see that happening. So, just a note about housing strategy. Over the last 8 years, we have averaged 136 completed dwellings per year, on average. That is more than the 65 to 70 that were required under the previous regional plans. We're already satisfying our housing dwelling numbers for the Illawarra Shoalhaven region. We're doing that. At the moment, last year, calendar 2021, There were 2 new greenfield sites that are going to gateway for rezoning. That's the one at Campbell Street down at Gerringong. That's about 150 lots down there. And also the one at Henry Parks Drive at Kiama Downs. Another 50 odd lots. That's 200 lots that may yield another 250 to 270 dwellings. We're already doing these things within the area. Just looking around, there's a big crane over there. There's 53 new dwellings going in there. There's 62 new dwellings going in at Surfleet Place. The old Bong Bong Motel will have 29 new dwellings there. So this activity is already happening along with infill that is occurring on a daily basis. You'd all be aware of that. Now, in the Illawarra Shoalhaven Regional Plan, the state government, in one of their planning proposals, said that Kiama Council needs to draft and put into place a local housing strategy. That local housing strategy will look at a few major issues. It will look at what sort of number of dwellings that we are looking at, what they will look like, what sort of configuration they will be, but more importantly, where they will go. And that local housing strategy will also determine the rural and urban boundaries in our LGA. It will look at making sure that we do preserve our prime agricultural land. Human beings rely totally on the top 30 centimetres of topsoil on this planet. That's how we live. If we don't preserve prime agricultural land, what are we doing? So the previous council and council officers have put into place a strategic plan which includes a local housing strategy. You may have seen through the communications from council that there is an expression of interest for community members to be on a panel to contribute to that local housing strategy. I would encourage you to put your names forward, because these are the critical things that will determine what this LGA looks like over the next 20 years. It is no good waking up in 5 years' time saying, gee, I didn't know that was going to happen. It is up to us to create our own community. So the action plan, so the mission for you, should you decide to accept it, is on Gareth's Facebook page, as well as the community pages that we put up. We will put down the details of Anthony Roberts MP, his electoral office email address, as well as his ministerial address. So please write to him. Write your own submission and tell him exactly what you think about this development and why it's not the right development for Kiama now. Okay. I have a couple of questions. We do need to finish up at 10:30.